What's up, everybody? Good morning. It's Josh here, or Carpo, or whatever you prefer. I got up this morning and I had this toothache. It's just been killing me the last couple of days. I went to the dentist and I got it fixed, but it was almost to the root, or it was to the root. So the hope is that it will heal itself. But I've been going through these phases of pain, and then I'll feel good for a while because I had really bad back pain for a while, and I finally got it managed to where it's just a dull ache in my leg, and it comes and goes, but it's not consistent. There are moments of clarity and moments of non-pain where I feel great, and I really take the world for what it is. And my point to that is that I've talked to a lot of people about pain and suffering, and it seems that we have this idea that we can overcome it. And I think that we can. I think that's on an individual basis. I don't think that there's any magic recipe to cure humanity of its ailments. And that's why so many Eastern philosophies press looking inward to find out who you truly are. Because when you're casting your ideas outward, when you're casting your opinions and thoughts outward, it makes everything appear threatening. Because you're trying to make the world look the way that you want the world to look, as opposed to changing the way that you look at the world. And I think that's a really important point. I really do. The world's not going to change for us. So I had a thought along those lines this morning. I was standing outside, and I don't remember how it came across this idea, but I was thinking about bugs and insects and whatnot, and I had a thought back to when I was a kid. I must have been a teenager at that time, and I remember saying that I wish that, or I said something about yellow jackets. I hated yellow jackets. I was always getting stung. It really wasn't even that often, maybe once a year, but it was enough to piss me off. And I was like, if yellow jackets disappeared tomorrow, that would be fine. I don't care. And I remember saying that, I know that all animals are needed for the ecosystem. And I remember, understanding the connection between all animals, yet still saying, well, there's got to be a couple of insects that we could get rid of. The annoying ones, the nuisances to me personally. Not that I really would do that, if I had the choice, but if somebody had given me the power to snap my fingers and remove all the yellow jackets in the world, maybe I would have. Anyway, I I think many would sympathize. I walked into a couple different nests. So anyway, yellow jackets are wasps, for those who don't know, and they're gnarly, and they sting over and over and over, so they're not exactly pleasing to be around. But yellow jackets eat meat. Yellow jackets break down carcasses. They break down debris. They do the same thing that cockroaches do and other insects, and because they're meat eaters. They're not pollinators. And I've heard people. The argument back then was like, well, they don't pollinate anything. We don't need them. So, of course I knew that wasn't true, but when I was thinking about that, I was like, well, is there anything that we don't need here on Earth? Is there anything that we can get rid of successfully without disrupting the whole, the integrity of the whole? And so I haven't really thought through it yet. This is something I process all the time. I think about this like every day, like in one way or another. Can we get rid of bad ways of thinking? Now, if I were to say, what's one thing we could remove from society? Sneezes. No. What's a sneeze? No, if you could remove one thing from society, a lot of people might say murder. I just don't know. Without murder, we wouldn't know really how bad things could really get, I guess. It's a difficult thing to express. It's a difficult thing to really get across without sounding like accepting of some of the most evil things in this world. I really firmly believe that everything that's incorporated into the paradigm of the world is necessary, that it serves a purpose, that even senseless killing somehow serves a purpose in the big picture. And I'll give you, I guess, the ultimate example is that, I've said this before, and I had one guy say, because I said, you can find the positive in any situation or any circumstance in the world. I said, well, how can you find positivity in dropping an atomic bomb on a city, killing and maiming all these people? And instantly I thought of a positive attribute. It's because it happened then. That's what's positive about it. That it happened in 1945 and not in 1995 or 2005. Because it happened when the bomb was young and when we were the only one that really had it. And I could only imagine if everyone had the bomb during World War II, what it could have become. We didn't even have the ability to research what we were using yet. I mean, they thought that when they set the first atomic bomb off, it might create a chain reaction and destroy, the world. They had some people theorizing that it would destroy everything, that it would never stop, that chain reaction, that nuclear reaction would just continue. Which, sounds preposterous now, but they didn't know much about what they had. And anyway, that's it. That's my positive attribute. Well, what would be positive about the Holocaust? Honestly, I cannot tell you what would be positive, if anything, about the Holocaust, except for the fact that millions of people were persecuted for unreasonable purposes. And now when we look back on that, we can say we don't want to do this again. And I'm hoping that we get the same result from slavery, which never should have happened, but since it did, we use it as a groundwork to understand how slavery affects a group. And, not everything is what it seems. I was watching a news clip yesterday. It was on something. It was about that guy Clive Bundy. This is totally off the subject, but I'm going to say it because it's here and it's on my mind. I know a lot of people have been defending Clive Bundy. He's the guy who has the land rights issue down there with the federal government and claims he doesn't recognize the federal government, and a lot of people want to stand by his side. I saw an interview where he says, "I'll tell you something else about the Negro." He says, basically in a nutshell, they keep having babies and then they just live off welfare. And he says, maybe they were better off as slaves. Because then they weren't getting into trouble and weren't putting all their kids into prison. I was appalled. I was utterly appalled at this guy's attitude and demeanor towards other races. I absolutely do not side with him at all. He's garbage in my eyes, and I'm sorry if anyone doesn't, disagrees. That's fine. I'd respect that. But anyone who separates themselves that much, and even uses the word Negro and talks about kids in prisons, that he has no idea what he's talking about, and neither does anyone else who seems to be so big into the news. Like, everyone seems to have a grasp on what they think are their rights. And the reason I brought that up was because I was talking about the slavery thing, and it really bothers me that some people still seem to think that slavery is a legitimate form of society. It's a horrendous thing. Classism is one thing, but racism and slavery is a completely different nut to crack, and I don't think we'll ever really get past that. But the positive attribute for slavery is to be able to say, we don't want to be enslaved again. People would not allow themselves to do that in our Western world today. Although I know we're all slaves in one way or another to the system. That's a totally different story, but if we choose to, we can opt out to an extent that some couldn't. So we should be grateful and fortunate for that. So, what are some components of society that we don't need? I'm open to that, because I really want to kind of devise my own ideas about what it means to be alive. Not what my ideal world would be like, but what the ideal world would be like, and if we're living in it right now. Doesn't seem like it, does it?